Hey everyone, today I'm talking about all the books that I gave 5 stars in 2022, and I'm hoping I get more 5 stars in this next year because I feel like I am lacking a little bit on the oomph I needed out of books, you know? Or I'm just not choosing the correct ones. Anyways, let us get into it. Sorry if I sound a little scatterbrained. I had like kind of a rough morning, so I am trying to feel better by talking about books. So I'm gonna go in order of when I read these, and the first one that I read was The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker in January of 2022, and I really enjoyed this book. It was set in Alaska, and it is about this girl who hasn't talked to her father in a long time. Like, they have a strained relationship, but her father is dying and like has cancer or something, and so she travels to Alaska to learn about him and like become friends with him essentially, and she ends up falling in love with the neighbor. I think they're neighbors. This like perfect human who's like a pilot, and like all these people that are in this book are a pilot. So it's a whole story of her learning about her father again and finding love in an unexpected place. There are 2 more books. I just have not got my hands on the second one, and I really want to. I have the 3rd one on audiobook, but I just haven't found the 2nd one yet. Maybe I will use my Audible membership for that. But it is kind of a slow burn. Like, it's not spicy at all until like the very end, I'm pretty sure. But I highly recommend any K.A. Tucker books. Love her books, especially, this is another honorable mention, the Wolf Hotel series. If you haven't read that, there's 4 books. They're all really good. The second book I have, now that I look back on these books, I'm like, did those deserve 5 stars? But I have The Confidence of Wildflowers by, I don't remember her name, by Michaela Smeltzer. So this book was like pretty intense. Like, everyone was talking about it in like earlier last year, so I had to read it. I read it in like one sitting. It is about this girl who moves into her like a new town, I think, after her father died, and she meets the neighbor who's like this grumpy old man, but he has a kid, and it's the journey of them falling in love. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is like a huge tragedy in this book. It's an age gap romance. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I'm struggling. Yeah, so this book was like slightly traumatizing, so make sure to read all the trigger warnings before you read this book. But I really enjoyed it. Thayer, who's the main character, the grumpy guy, he is like really perfect in especially the second one. Like, I don't know, there's just like something about him. The next book I wanted to talk about is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This book came out in 2022, the beginning of 2022, right? So this book is about this woman who went to prison for 5 years for something that gets explained in the book. It's actually really sad. So she gets out of prison. She actually had a kid at the beginning of when she was in prison. The person she was in a relationship with who got her pregnant, they were like madly in love, and he tragically died. She went to prison and had this baby, and his parents took the baby. So this baby is now 5-ish years old, has no clue really who the mother is. So Kenna moves back into this town. Like, everyone in her daughter's life doesn't want her there, and she finds a job at this bar. I'm pretty sure it's a bar, and it just happens to be the bar of her lover's best friend in the past, and he turns out to be really close to her daughter. So it's kind of this healing situation of her finding her way back to her daughter through Ledger, and it's really beautiful. It's like a love story. It's sad at times, but also loved it. I love a good Colleen Hoover book. She has one more on this list, so definitely recommend. The next book is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. Loved this book for the summertime. It's about this woman and man whose siblings are getting married, but they like tragically get food poisoning or something before their honeymoon, and those two were the only ones that didn't eat the food. So her sister and his brother, I'm pretty sure, or their best man, are they best man, or I can't remember if it's their siblings or best man, bridesmaid, whatever. Anyways, they go on this vacation together, but they actually hate each other. But when they're on the trip, Olive, I'm pretty sure the main girl's name is Olive and his name is Ethan. Olive runs into her boss, and she's in this like whole lie situation where she like got married. I don't know. She's not married. Anyways, so she now has to fake this whole relationship. She like gets Ethan involved, and he's like, I don't want to do this, but too bad you're on this trip with me. And it's the story of them falling in love and her getting caught in lies. We love when people get caught in lies, don't we? So anyways, Enemies to Lovers, loved this book. I love Christina Lauren books. They're just beautiful. We now have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm really getting into Taylor Jenkins Reid right now. I'm trying to make it through her books, but this book I think was the first book I read by her, and I was in love with the whole thing. It's about this super famous Hollywood actress back in the day, and it's all about the 7 husbands that she had throughout the years. And there's kind of like a plot twist. This is LGBTQ friendly, and I loved this book. It was beautifully written. It was in kind of like an interview style. I think I listened to it on audiobook, but it's all about like her forbidden love, friendship, just like what it's like to be in the limelight, and it was great. Like, if you haven't read this book, definitely go read it. I am falling in love with Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I want to do a video of like the best Taylor Jenkins, or like the ranking of Taylor Jenkins Reid books when I get through them all. So definitely go check this book out. It was probably the top of my 2022. So the next book, it's kind of different than what I've been talking about. It's definitely a smutty, spicy book. It is Praise by Sarah Kate. This was my first Sarah Kate novel. I didn't read the next couple from this series just because I tried to read the second one and it just wasn't my cup of tea, but this one is an age gap romance. It's about this man. I get these books mixed up with the Beautiful Bastard series and the Miles High series because they're all kind of similar. But anyways, it's about this girl who had a boyfriend and they break up, and she falls in love with her ex-boyfriend's father, who owns like this like sex club. Loved it. If you love a praise type of book, definitely go check this one out. Sarah Kate is a great writer. Perfect summer read. The next book is The Do-Over by T.L. Swan. This is the 4th book of the Miles High Club. It's the 4th brother of the Miles brothers. This is a great series if you have not checked it out. Love the narrator of this book. I'm pretty sure it's Teddy Hamilton. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I love whenever he narrates books. I just love listening to his voice. Anyways, this book was about the brother who needed to change up his life. He went to a different country to travel the world in a hostel, so he wanted to do it like not the rich way. He wanted to be like a normal person that didn't have a ton of money. Anyways, he meets a woman there, and it's the whole journey of them like figuring out each other and like falling in love. There's some lies, there's some friend zoning. So it's really cute. Loved it. If you love a good romance. Very spicy. We love the spice. I then have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This book also came out this past year, and it was so good. It was all about Jeanette McCurdy's life, of her growing up in Hollywood and her narcissistic mother. And I just love reading autobiographies of people that I somewhat know things about. I mean, I didn't watch iCarly really. I think that was kind of after my time, but I knew who she was. So it's just fascinating to me, this dynamic of mother-daughter situations, and her life in the past was full of abuse and trauma and neglect, and it's very interesting. It has very short chapters if you're into that. But definitely go check this book out if you haven't read it. It's a pretty quick read, and 5 out of 5 all around. This book is another one of my top books of the year. It is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is more of a psychological thriller. Fascinating read. Loved it. Can't wait for the second one to come out. It was about this woman who, I think she has a criminal history, but she needs a job, and this woman hires her to take care of their rich house. Like, she needs a housemaid, obviously. She needs a nanny, and there's a huge plot twist in it. But in the beginning, this mom who hires her is like psycho, like freaks out, does crazy stuff, has a daughter who does kind of similar stuff, and a husband who just handles it all. But then there's a plot twist. I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's crazy in the middle of the book, and I was hooked. I listened to this so quickly. So if you have not read this book and you're into any sort of psychological thriller, definitely go read it. I need more recommendations like this. I've been trying to find one since I read this and I cannot find something. So definitely leave your recommendations below because I'd love to hear it. Okay, 2 books left. We have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm sure you know all about this book. I almost didn't give it 5 out of 5, but then I couldn't help myself because Atlas is just too perfect. And I mean, I didn't love all the thoughts that Lily, was her name Lily, that she had in her head, and it was a lot of overthinking and stuff like that. And Ryle was still there, but I think that added a nice dynamic into the book, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to talk too much about it because you've probably heard like 10,000 people talk about this book, but definitely go check it out. Check out the first one first. That's the book that got me back into reading, so I feel like I have a special bond with that series. The last book is actually a Christmas book. It is Kiss Her Once for Me by Allison Cochran, and I think this is a new book too, but it's about this girl who's working at a coffee shop, and I think she's having money problems. The owner of the coffee shop comes in and talks to her, and then something happens where they decide to have a fake marriage because he needs to get married for his inheritance. So he's like, hey, come to my Christmas gathering with my family at a cabin for a straight week in the mountains with these people you've never met. Makes sense, right? So she's like, okay, I'll take $200,000 for this. Also, she is stuck on this girl she met a year before on Christmas, who she like fell in love with instantly, and they had like an amazing night, but then like something happened and they just like stopped talking. Anyways, they go to this cabin. Turns out that the man who she's fake marrying, his sister, is that girl that she fell in love with the year before. So it's like them pretending like they didn't know each other, her pretending to be in love with Andrew, and it's like this whole mess. But it's like so cute because they're doing like all these Christmassy things and like snowball fights and like going skiing and like drinking hot cocoa. It was just so cute, and I loved how it turned out in the end. So if you haven't read that one, save it for next year because the year's kind of over. That was a lot to go over, and it reminded me of all the fun reads that I had this past year. I'm so excited to read more, and please let me know your recommendations for your 5 stars in the comments below because I need it desperately. Because out of 80 books, I got 10 or 11 top 5, so that's not bad, but I need more. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.